Hold your hand over a candle flame. Do not touch it. Just watch the heat climb up your skin. That warning sting is designed to keep you alive, but researchers found it does more than that. It turns on the exact same switch in your brain as when you see a friend hurt. It bypasses logic and goes straight to the gut, saying, "This is dangerous for us both." We have mapped these pathways precisely enough to trick our bodies into safety using cold therapy. The body does not lie about how we connect with other people. Yet for centuries, we treated connection as a spiritual mystery rather than a biological event. If your nerves fire to protect you from the cold, does it also signal when you feel another person freezing inside?
So, if biology is the hardware, then this shared pain is the software running on it. Look at what happens when you hold a warm cup while listening to a story about someone losing everything. Your temperature regulation pathways shift in response to their narrative despair. This tells us the line between external sensation and internal story is thinner than we thought. It suggests our brains use physical discomfort as a way to prioritize social information, essentially weaponizing pain to keep us connected to our tribe. But here's where it gets complicated, because if these circuits are calibrated by touch, then everything touching us changes who we become. We have to understand the calibration point of this system before we can fix the disconnection everyone feels today. And that requires understanding exactly what happens when you apply heat to a specific nerve ending while under stress.
So when that heat hits, it doesn't just register temperature. It activates polymodal nociceptors. Think of these as universal translators for suffering. They don't distinguish between a stove burner and a rejection letter. The signal is the same urgency. This is why the brain lights up in the anterior insula during empathy. It treats social pain literally like physical heat damage. The real breakthrough lies in understanding somatic resonance. When your skin feeds data into the mirror neuron system through thermal feedback, you tune your internal empathy gain. You aren't just watching someone suffer. Your nervous system biologically mimics that state to protect you. But here's the problem. If this circuit recruits so deeply during stress, it implies our capacity to feel together is incredibly fragile.
But that fragility isn't necessarily a weakness. It suggests our bodies were actually built to use pain as a universal language. When you feel heat or cold, your brain lights up the same regions involved in understanding other people. We call this somatic resonance, and it works like a tuning fork. Strike one and it vibrates at that specific frequency, even if you aren't touching it directly. This means your skin is effectively an antenna for social connection. It's why a tight hug can warm you up faster than a heater setting. It bypasses your thoughts and hits the empathy center in the insula directly. But researchers are starting to wonder what happens if we reverse engineer this naturally occurring circuit on purpose.
Reverse engineering that pathway implies we can finally stop treating these nerve endings like simple wires. If the signal traveling through your skin acts as a tuning fork for your social awareness, then maybe we don't need better screens to connect us. We might just need colder air or sharper textures that hit the right receptors to wake up our mirror neurons without the cognitive work of understanding another person. Imagine a world where empathy isn't something you learn in a classroom, but something you feel physically when your skin registers a specific temperature range designed to mimic social friction. Neuroscientists are already building interfaces that use mild cold exposure to sync your brainwaves with someone you're talking to remotely. It turns out the body already knows how to translate touch into trust, and we just stopped listening to what those signals were trying to tell us. But there is a limit to how much thermal feedback your brain can process before it stops feeling empathy and starts feeling irritation.
But irritation is just the warning system kicking in. When that limit isn't breached, something much stranger happens. We find that the same receptors detecting heat damage also fire when we see another person hurt. It suggests our brains don't distinguish between our own burn and someone else's until we consciously analyze it. The biological bridge is actually built right into our skin. Recent findings show that mild thermal stress can calibrate the mirror neuron system more effectively than visual cues ever could. It implies that true understanding requires a shared vulnerability, a physical cost to witness another person's state accurately.
We are looking for a way to hack this response without triggering defense mechanisms. So, if we want to hack that response, we need to find a frequency the brain ignores for safety. The body already has a built-in translator, but most of us never tune into it properly. When you apply mild thermal pressure, just enough to register as sensation but not injury, you trigger a specific channel in the skin. This signals the anterior insula to wake up from its defensive stance. It essentially tells the brain that this situation is worth monitoring with full emotional bandwidth. Imagine tuning a radio until the static clears and the signal comes through crystal clear. That moment of clarity is where true empathy lives, not in the understanding, but in the physical match. We are looking for a way to artificially mimic that calibration without the actual cost. The answer might lie in how we can use this specific window in the nervous system to bridge that gap without needing the presence of another body.
But if we want to fake that presence, we have to speak the same language as the body itself. Think about it this way. Your brain processes a sudden cold draft on your neck almost exactly the same way it processes someone glaring at you in judgment. That is why thermal feedback feels so social. By applying specific temperature spikes to the skin, we can trigger the anterior insula like real empathy does. It's essentially tuning an antenna using pain receptors instead of radio waves. Most haptics just vibrate motors, but this would actually recruit the mirror neuron system through cutaneous pathways. We aren't simulating touch anymore, we are simulating survival. But here's where it gets complicated, because if you tune that frequency too high, the brain stops feeling empathy and starts feeling terror. Which means the next question isn't just how warm or cold the device needs to get, but exactly how much discomfort we can weaponize without breaking trust.
The fear of breaking trust points to a hardwired biological shortcut hidden inside your skin. Your brain does not clearly separate physical injury from social rejection because evolutionarily, both meant exclusion from the tribe. That is why touching something cold can mimic the shock of betrayal. We are using thermal input to hack the mirror neuron system by stimulating specific cutaneous receptors called polymodal nociceptors. This tricks your nervous system into firing the same chemical alarms you use during genuine heartbreak. It's like training your body to recognize danger without any actual violence present. But there is a feedback loop we haven't mapped yet. If this circuitry calibrates empathy artificially, does it mean our natural emotional range could be tuned like a dial?
So, if we can tune that range, where do we start? We go back to what evolved before logic could override it. Our skin was built for connection long before screens. The takeaway is a protocol. When you feel disconnected, hold ice water for 30 seconds. That shock forces your body into survival mode, paradoxically opening mirror neuron pathways usually closed by distraction. You aren't just feeling cold, you are calibrating your nervous system to recognize shared states. Pain becomes data, not damage. We don't need more technology to bridge the gap between us. We just need to remember our oldest interface. This is how we fix the connection loop without rewriting our biology. Go feel something real today. The full research archive is at jmthomasofficial.com.